Eubank Jr versus Conor Benn, the first fight, exceeded all expectations. The fight build-up was one of a kind, the events was full of surprises, and the fight itself on the night was an absolute barn burner. I have just finished watching the fight again and have noticed things that both fighters did well and not so well. So in this video, I am going to analyze each fighter's mistakes, discuss how they can rectify those mistakes in the rematch in order to get the victory. Because I don't think this fight goes the distance. I think this fight ends in a knockout. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bright. This is the Bright Show Podcast Boxing. Don't forget to support, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your comments in the section below. So let's start with Chris Eubank Jr. The first thing I noticed is that Eubank Jr did not use his reach, height, and weight advantage as much as he should have used in the first fight. And what that did was it gave Conor Benn the opportunity to land shots that he should not be able to land. Look, Eubank Jr is a much bigger, stronger, rangier fighter, and what he should have done is use his jab and use the distance that he has between himself and Conor Benn. But very early on, I just realized that Eubank Jr started fighting Conor Benn's fight, and that gave Conor Benn the opportunity to also land shots that he shouldn't be able to get close enough to land. What Eubank Jr should have done is keep Conor Benn at the end of the jab, make him miss, make him pay. Every time that Conor Benn wants to come on the inside, he has to stop that momentum with a left hook, a double jab, and then right hand down the pipe. Just keep Conor Benn away from the danger zone, which is coming close and letting his hands go. And I think Eubank Jr did not do that enough in the first fight. He should be using his reach advantage and his size to be pushing the smaller fighter back, push him on the ropes and let his hands go, because Conor Benn does not fight well on the back foot, and Eubank Jr should have used that advantage to put Conor Benn more on his back foot, landed shots to the body, landed shots to the head, and really stamp his authority in this fight. But what I saw was that Conor Benn was actually having success because Eubank Jr did not use his reach, height, and weight advantage enough in the earlier rounds. What I saw was he did use that in the latter rounds, but this fight could have been much easier for Eubank Jr a bit more earlier in the fight. The second thing that I saw is that Eubank Jr did not win the mental battle in the ring. Yes, Eubank Jr won the mental battle during the fight build-up where he hit Conor Benn with an egg. He talked about the fact that Conor Benn failed a drugs test and he actually got the public behind him. But when he got into the ring, he gave Conor Benn too many opportunities to build his confidence during the fight. And that is why the fight became more difficult for Eubank Jr than it did for Conor Benn. And the reason why I say that is Eubank Jr himself, after the fight, said that he underrated Conor Benn's ability to stay in the fight because he thought that he was going to knock Conor Benn out. And that was because Conor Benn was not defeated mentally in that fight, and that gave him a lot of confidence. You see, a fighter like Conor Benn, who is very aggressive, who is very emotional, the way to defeat such a fighter is to make sure that you're chipping away round by round. So what Eubank Jr should have done is not give Conor Benn the opportunity to land all these shots that he did land in the beginning to gain confidence from. What he should have done, and what I mentioned in the first point, is to make sure that he can control the range, that he can stop Conor Benn from landing shots earlier. And that is going to frustrate Conor Benn because he's very emotional. And because of that, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And Eubank Jr will then capitalize on those mistakes. But instead, Eubank Jr did not win that mental battle. Give Conor Benn some opportunities to land shots to gain his confidence, and then the fight became even more difficult than it should have been in the beginning. As the fight went on, Conor Benn then became stronger mentally. He became resilient. He started taking shots better, and then he started having success, which is something that Eubank Jr should have overcame earlier in that fight. And then the third mistake that I saw Eubank Jr do is that he dips his head to his right every time that Conor Benn throws the right hand, and that means that he becomes susceptible to the left hook or to the left uppercut. And Conor Benn did not throw that left hook enough in the first fight, and also that check left hook, he did not throw that shot enough in that fight because Eubank Jr was always available to be hit with the left foot because he dips his head low every time Conor Benn throws that right hand, and he was just open to be countered with a left hook. And that reminds me of Andy Ruiz when he landed that crisp hook on the top of Anthony Joshua's head. His equilibrium was gone, and that was the beginning of the end. And I think that shot was always there for Conor Benn to land. And I think now, if they look at the tapes, they will realize that Eubank Jr dips his head so low that he's susceptible to the left uppercut or a check left hook, and that is a punch that can end the fight if landed perfectly. And Conor Benn would have the opportunity to land that shot if Eubank Jr keeps making that same mistake again in the rematch. So now let's take a look at Conor Benn. The first thing I noticed was Conor Benn was too emotional. Way too emotional. It is clear that Conor Benn is an emotional character, which means that he's too tense, he's not relaxed, he's making silly mistakes, he's throwing shots here and there, he's not landing the shots that he needs to land, and he's all over the place. And that's what I saw all over this fight, because Conor Benn, although he is the smaller, shorter fighter fighting the bigger guy, if he was emotionally stable in this fight, he would have had more success than he did in this fight, because there were shots there that he could have taken if he was emotionally clear and knew exactly why he should stay calm and loose and relax in that fight. In the rematch, he cannot be too emotionally invested. Yes, I know family legacy is on the line. I know it's a rivalry, but he has to stay emotionally switched on. He cannot get dragged into a dogfight. He needs to get his head in the game, and he needs to stay switched on. The second thing that I noticed is that Conor Benn has poor footwork and does not close the distance. Look, Conor Benn's success has to come when he fights at close range. He cannot box Chris Eubank Jr. at long range or middle range. Chris Eubank Jr. has all the advantages to keep Conor Benn at the end of the jab. What Conor Benn needs to do is to come on the inside, let his hands go, and do the work there. And to do that, he has to get closer to the target. Conor Benn was way too far from Chris Eubank Jr. He started throwing shots that do not land. He's all over the place. And every time that he throws these big shots that do not land, he's losing energy. He's open to counters. And he's just not having the success that he imagines that he wants to have. So he needs to close the distance. He needs to stay in range. And when he gets close, then he has to let his hands go, because that is when he's going to have success. He's explosive. He's aggressive. He can punch. Although there's questions about his punching power at 160, nevertheless, Chris Eubank Jr. is a dehydrated fighter that can be knocked out if the right punches land. And Conor Benn, if he's able to get closer by closing the distance, using better footwork than he did in the first fight, he can actually get Chris Eubank Jr. out of there. And then the third thing that I saw Conor Benn do is that he was swinging his shots instead of throwing his shot. And that's a big difference. Conor Benn was just winging and swinging shots every angle instead of really taking his time to know that he's in range to throw the shot instead of swinging the shot. And that was the difference. That is why he did not connect as much as he should connect in that fight, because he is fast. He is explosive. But he's just swinging it instead of throwing it the right way, throwing it down the pipe. He's just bowling it over, and Chris Eubank Jr. keeps dipping down, which again leaves himself for a counter. But Conor Benn is so emotionally invested, his head is gone, that he does not realize that he needs to throw his shots properly, because he would have had more success if he threw those shots straight when in range, rather than just bowling it and swinging it and winging it all over the place and not having success with it. Besides that, Chris Eubank Jr.'s body was there for the taking. And for a fighter that is dehydrated, Conor Benn should have invested more in the body, and then the head would be there for the taking at some point in that fight. But instead, Conor Benn was head hunting all night, very aggressive, wasting energy, throwing shots that do not land, and he just leaves himself open for counters. And I believe that was the main reason why Conor Benn did not have success that he needed in the first fight. If he can work on this in the second fight, I think he's going to have more success. So you guys get in the comment section and let me know about the things I've discussed in this video. How do you see this fight playing out? Who do you think wins this fight? Do you give Conor Benn any chance at all? Do you think Eubank Jr. can stop Conor Benn even earlier this time around? Or do you think this fight goes to distance? This is the Bradshaw Podcast Boxing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.